This video is on solving radical equations with extraneous solutions. So when we solve, we're going to have to double check by plugging our answers back in to see if they actually work or to see if they're extraneous solutions. So in this first one, we have the square root of 2x plus 15 is equal to x. So the first step is to square both sides because I want to get rid of this square root. Opposite of square root is squaring, but anything you do to one side, you must do to the other. So the square root of 2x squared plus 15 squared is just 2x plus 15 is equal to x squared. Okay, so I'm going to move everything to the same side. Okay, so here I'm going to subtract 2x on both sides. So I get 15 equals x squared minus 2x. I'm going to subtract 15 on both sides, and I get 0 is equal to x squared minus 2x minus 15. Okay, so that means I need to figure out if I can factor this. So, what two numbers can I add together to get negative 2 and multiply together to get negative 15? So I know I'm going to start with x. Well, what adds together to equal negative 2 and multiplies together to equal negative 15 is negative 5 and positive 3. So it would be x minus 5 and x plus 3. Okay, so I have to solve each of these. X minus 5 equals 0 and x plus 3 equals 0. I'm going to add 5 to both sides and I get x equals 5. So this is one answer. I'm going to subtract 3 on both sides and I get x equals negative 3. Here's my other answer. So I have to double check this work and make sure when I plug these two answers back into the original problem that they actually do work. So I'm going to check right here. Okay, so I have the square root of 2 times my x value. I'm going to use 5 for the first one. 2 times 5 plus 15 underneath that square root is equal to x, which I said is 5. So we have the square root. 2 times 5 is 10, and 10 plus 15 is 25. So the square root of 25 equals 5, and the square root of 25 is 5. So 5 equals 5. So two sides are equal, that works. So I know that this is a correct answer. Sorry, this is a correct answer. X equals 5. It worked, the two sides were equal. So now I'm going to go back and plug in negative 3 for x. So here's my other one. The square root of 2 times negative 3 plus 15 is equal to negative 3. All right, so I have the square root of 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. Negative 6 plus 15 is 9. That equals negative 3. Square root of 9 is 3. Well, 3 is not equal to negative 3. Because this doesn't work, the two sides are not equal, that means that negative 3 is an extraneous solution, and it is not a true solution. So my only solution is x equals 5. So it is very important that you go back, double check that your values actually work for x. And if they don't work, go ahead and eliminate them because they're called extraneous solutions. All right, so over here, I want to get rid of my square root. So opposite of taking the square root is squaring. Anything you do one side, do the other. So square root and squaring undo each other, so we're left with 5x equals x squared. So I want to get my 5x to the other side, so I'm going to subtract it, and I have x squared minus 5x. All right, I'm going to factor out an x here. Okay, so I have x times x minus 5 because I knew that there was an x in each, so I could factor that x out. So I'm going to have x equals 0 and x minus 5 is equal to 0. So here I'm going to add 5 to both sides. X equals 5. So here are my two answers, x equals 0 and x equals 5. I have to go back and double check, make sure that they both work. So here's my check. Okay, plug it into the original problem. Square root of 5 times x, I'm going to do 0, is equal to 0. Square root of 5 times 0 is 0. Square root of 0 is 0. Because the two sides are equal, I know this works. Now I'm going to go plug in this. I have the square root of 5 times my x value is 5. That should equal 5. Square root of 5 times 5 is 25. Square root of 25 is 5. And because the two sides are equal, that means both answers actually work. All right, let's try another one. We have the square root of 12x minus 32 is equal to x. This entire thing is under the square root sign. I kind of wrote over it, so it's hard to see. Okay, so I am going to square both sides. So I have 12x minus 32 is equal to x squared. Subtract 12x on both sides. Negative 32 equals x squared minus 12x. Add 32 to both sides. And we get x squared minus 12x plus 32. All right, so I need to factor this. I know I'm going to start with x, so I have to figure out what I can add together to equal negative 12 and multiply together to equal 32. They're both going to be negative, so I'm going to say negative 8 and negative 4. Negative 8, negative 4, so negative 8 plus negative 4 is negative 12. Negative 8 times negative 4 is positive 32. Okay, so I'm going to solve each. We have x minus 8 equals 0 and x minus 4 is equal to 0. Add 8 to both sides to get x equals 8. Add 4 to both sides to get x equals 4. So I have my two answers. X equals 8 and x equals 4. Now I have to go back and double check that they both work. All right, so here's my check. Okay, original problem. Square root of 12 times 8, I'm plugging in the first one where x equals 8, minus 32 is equal to 8. All right, so I have the square root of 12 times 8 is 96 minus 32 equals 8. Square root of 96 minus 32 is 64 equals 8. Square root of 64 is 8, and so the two sides are equal, so I know that the answer of x equals 8 does work. Okay, now I'm going to plug in x equals 4 to the original problem. So we have the square root of 12 times 4 minus 32 is equal to 4. All right, square root of 12 times 4 is 48 minus 32, see if that equals 4. Square root of 16 is equal to 4. Square root of 16 is 4, so the two sides are equal, so I know that both of these are answers. All right, so I'm going to have you go ahead and try 3 problems just like the ones I just did, and then I'll go through the answers with you when you're done. All right, so hopefully you squared both sides and got 2x plus 35 is equal to x squared. Subtract 2x. 35 equals x squared minus 2x. Subtract 35 and get x squared minus 2x minus 35. So when you factor this, you get x minus 7 times x plus 5. Then you have to go back and check. And, oh, I didn't finish solving. Here, x minus 7 equals 0, x plus 5 equals 0. Add 7 to get x equals 7. Subtract 5 to get x equals negative 5. Okay, now we can go back and check. Plug in 7. Square root of 2 times 7 plus 35 should equal 7. All right, 2 times 7 is 14. 14 plus 35 is 49. That should equal 7. Square root of 49 is 7. The two sides are equal, so I know this is correct. Go back, plug in negative 5. We have the square root of 2 times negative 5 plus 35 is equal to negative 5. Square root of 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. Negative 10 plus 35 is 25. Should equal negative 5. Square root of 25 is 5, which does not equal negative 5, so this is not an answer. I only have one answer that is correct. Okay, number 2, square both sides. We get 3x equals x squared. Subtract 3x. We have x squared minus 3x. I am going to factor out an x. We're left with x minus 3. So we have x equals 0 and x minus 3 equals 0. So I'm going to add 3 to both sides to get x equals 3. So here I'm going to go back and double check my work, or double check that those are the correct answers. So check, see if anything's extraneous. We have square root of 3 times 0 is equal to 0. 3 times 0 is 0, and square root of 0 is 0, so the two sides are equal. Now plug in 3. Square root of 3 times 3 equals 3. Well, the square root of 3 times 3 is 3, because you have 3 multiplied by itself, so you can bring it out. And that equals 3, so both work. All right, last one. Here we're going to square both sides. We get negative 3x plus 18 is equal to x squared. Add 3x. 18 equals x squared plus 3x. Subtract 18. So we get x squared plus 3x minus 18. And to factor this, we have, let's see, x plus 6 and x minus 3. So x plus 6 equals 0 and x minus 3, minus 3 equals 0. There we go. Subtract 6 on both sides to get x equals negative 6. Add 3 to both sides to get x equals 3. Okay, now I'm going to go back and double check, make sure I did it correct. Plug in negative 6. So we have the square root of negative 3 times negative 6 plus 18 is equal to negative 6. All right, negative 3 times negative 6 is positive 18. Okay, so we have 18 plus 18 is equal to negative 6. And we have 18 plus 18 is 36. That should equal negative 6. Square root of 36 is 6. The two sides are not equal, so I know that plugging in negative 6 for x will not work, so that's extraneous. Make sure you cross it out. Now I'm going to plug in 3 for x. We have the square root of negative 3 times 3 plus 18 is equal to 3. All right, negative 3 times 3 is negative 9 plus 18 equals 3. Negative 9 plus 18 is 9, and the square root of 9 is 3. So the two sides are equal. Whoops. So I know that x equals 3 is my only answer.